We can start with the planning commission for December. Roll call,
Kenneth Farrell,
yes.
Lawrence Stevens,
Yeah.
Larry Burns,
Here.
John Cresser,
Here.
Michelle Cresser, here, and Manager Snyder, here.
Motion to approve the December 16th, 2024 agenda.
Make a motion?
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I have a motion to approve the November 18th, 2024 meeting minutes. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, Hatfield Walk. This is the third planning commission meeting. I think we have it whittled down. There was, I guess, number one, there was, you guys met out there because of the fence.
Correct.
And what was the outcome or the decision with that?
Did you like me to
Or-
answer? You can answer, whatever. works for you.
Sure, I think we were gonna stick with a 6-foot high privacy fence.
Okay. And the homeowner was okay with that?
I think the homeowner was over here. I don't think we communicated directly with the homeowner.
Okay,
Just I was meeting with Jason, president of council.
okay. And if I'm not mistaken, 6 foot is what the ordinance permits. Anything higher than that would require a variance.
I don't know if it's a variance or a waiver, but 6 feet is the height, yes.
This is the height.
Correct.
Right. So the only other issue, obviously the traffic. I wasn't sure if were the traffic engineers gonna be here tonight or,
So Anton's in attendance, figured if anyone has traffic questions, things like that, that's why Anton's here. He'll be able to answer any questions, because I know traffic was a big topic, through this land development process, so he's here in attendance to answer any questions, any concerns that anyone would have.
all right, so I first will open it up to the planning commission. Let's stick to the traffic, because again, at the last meeting, they were the two issues, and then if there's any other outstanding issues, we'll bring those up. So specifically with traffic, our traffic engineers here, our township engineers here. I'll go down the line. Larry, do you have any traffic questions, concerns, comments? Mr. Burns?
Just, so you looked at all the paperwork and all that. The big concern was the in and out, with that and the proximity to the corner, to the right, And, I know a couple of the residents here have done their own measurements and surveys and counted and been very involved in this. And, what's the thought on restricting the right turn, even for certain hours?
So, put it into the applicant's.
The left turn,
Yeah,
left.
yeah, the left turn, be the right turn only, certain hours.
So the applicant said the applicant did submit a traffic impact assessment provided by the engineer. They did do traffic counts at intersections, utilized intersection. Projected counts for the driveway. So we did review all that, and like you said, the access and the location is a concern. So one of the recommendations we had is to improve striping. That's like right in front of that driveway, because it's pretty wide open there today when it comes into the left turn lane. I'd like the left turn lane to be more defined. And we shared that concept with Jamie, something that can be done out there. As far as restrictions to the left turns out of the driveway, that wasn't something that we were recommending at this time. That's something that the board, the council will consider as part of their review, but it's not something that we would recommend.
And
You're not recommending that. You're not recommending it.
why?
I would feel that it's a low volume use, we talk about 4 additional trips on 125, that's being in the PM, whether they go left or right. With the striping, it's gonna allow
So I know one of the big concerns was the numbers that we had in the traffic study that they did was back in 22. That's when it was done. And that was, we were just coming out of the pandemic. You know, there's still, still don't go to the office. I work from home, you know, a lot of people weren't out there. And then they did a count of the gaps, you know, what was the frequency? And then they did that count while the road was still closed. While the road was still closed, you know, coming in from, out in Franconia,
Right.
you know, because of the township line project. So there was only traffic one way there, you know, so that was our concern was. And I know the people said the same thing. They see what's reported, you know, and we see what PennDOT says statewide, this is what we do. But they're seeing something different where they live, you know,
Right.
and that's why we were talking about some of these things and looking at some of these.
And we did, I mean, they did, like you said, the traffic count said
Mhm.
22. And we do have like historical traffic counts going back from work we've done with the township. And, you know, it's gonna change a little bit, but generally it was similar to what we would have typically seen in the past. And again, the counts are done, you know, one day at a time. That's why I'm not recommending a restriction at this time. That's a restriction that can be added in the future. It becomes an issue.
So rather than, you know, locking the barn after the horse gets out,
Right.
what's the issue with just doing it? You know, I mean, is there a state issue or?
Well, it's a borough road.
It's a borough road, it's not a state
your-
Right, so we could do it if, right, I mean, council could decide that that's what they want. Right?
But even if there's not enough warrants, we could put a restriction, or the borough council could put a restriction, no left-hand turns between 7 and 9, or 6 and 9 or something, and, you know, in the morning and, you know, 4 and 6 at night or something like that. We could put that restriction on because it's a borough road and, you know, to the extent it's enforceable, not enforceable, at least potentially it could reduce some of the problems.
Yeah, the council would make that decision.
Okay, can I ask a question? Is there an opportunity for Borough Council to say, put a condition on the approval? It doesn't necessarily require restriction now, but requires a study maybe 6 months after full occupancy or whatever number that you would choose. And at that point in time, if it is a noticeable problem, then they can restrict it.
Sure. They can do that too. That's an option.
Something to think about.
Without, we're beating that horse to death.
Yeah. I'm good. John?
Yeah, I was listening to him, he's fine. As far as questions, I was in agreement with what he's talking about. So, I'm good at this time. I'm not gonna repeat everything. Michelle?
Same thing.
All right, so right now with traffic issues only, we'll get to, we'll tie this up from the planning commission if there's any other comments besides traffic, but if there's any traffic, any residents in the audience, our traffic engineers here, any questions? State your name address for the record, please.
Anyway, Victor Lewis, 151 Orchard Lane. And once again, talk about that left turn over the rush hour. I use that intersection a lot, make a left-hand turn or cross it over a lot. So that was really a concern when this project. Understand, I'm not trying to stop this project. I'm just concerned about the during rush hour, that traffic crossing over or making a left turn is stopping distance, and they're so short. And even if you're using the TIA stopping distance, you're really deep into that safety zone. So when I even sat out there and just looked, watched the traffic into counts, and I would say I'll just get close to the numbers that they have, I don't disagree with that. But even you mentioned that the queue gets backed up. And what's gonna happen is somebody's gonna wanna make a left-hand turn and the queue's back up, and it's gonna block that oncoming lane. So I'm saying, stop that left-hand turn now, instead of waiting and before it's okay. That's what I'm going to concerned about. Not going back into all other numbers.
Right. All right, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I think everybody can hear me if I speak loud. My name is Fred Houseman. I live at 5 East Broad. My concern is all the turns and everything else. You can put signs up, stripes up, anything you want to put up. And unless you have a police officer sitting there watching it all, it's not going to happen. And I'm concerned about all the accidents that might occur because of it. People trying to rush and beat the lights and all that other nonsense that goes on even now. So that's my concern. I don't know if the traffic study indicated any of that or what they come up with, but it's bad enough now. I can't see it, getting any better with this more traffic coming into it. Thank you.
And I just want to add too, if
Can you
just
state your name
Bonnie Houseman,
for the
5
record?
East Broad, right there at the corner, and I live this daily, and we get cut off. We can't even get out of our driveway. We get cut off from people who are not in the next driveway. They're coming from down the post office. So, this is a nightmare for us, and I just, I know it doesn't affect you guys, but it's tough. So I would recommend not postponing that left-hand thing if you're gonna do it, because people will get used to it. Like, you wanna set the precedent right out the gate. Why wait? Then they're used to going, oh no, wait, now I have to do this. I would just state, doesn't that make more sense to just nip it in the bud and not get people used to going this way and that way? And I was just also would like to ask, how many accidents, I want to be clear about what you're saying with the delay. How many accidents or incidents does it take before you would put that sign up?
How many warrants would there be required?
I don't think there's a number or, related to that situation.
So what I would recommend to you guys is be sure you come to council meeting. When the council takes that up, which is, I believe, next week.
So Wednesday at council, it is just gonna be, yes, it's just gonna be an open discussion. And it's gonna be a chance for council to continue to ask, the developer and builder what their plans are, kind of talk through everything, because then that's how we're gonna get to the preliminary final resolution. So yes, I would encourage anybody to come to council, because when you talk about it on Wednesday, that might be something you want to put in the resolution to, approve later down the road.
Yeah, either down the road or, like you said, make your concerns about waiting. Those are great suggestions and concerns. And council may not think of that when they're debating that. So be sure if you can, be here Wednesday night.
Are there any other traffic-related questions, comments, concerns? All right, so, you're asking for 2 waivers? Can you refresh the planning commission on what the 2 waivers are?
Sure. So the 2 waivers we're requesting, one is regarding the buffer planting requirement along our track boundary. In lieu of the trees, we're suggesting the use of private fence. So that's one waiver. The second waiver is the proximity of our parking spaces and driveways to the property line. The code requires 25 feet. Obviously, with the configuration of the property, we don't have 25 feet between the edge of our driveway and parking spaces and the property line.
Okay,
And the number's actually 20 feet. So just clarity.
All right, so again, I'll start with Larry. Okay, what about, questions, comments, concerns about the project in general? We've talked about the traffic, we've talked about the waiver. They met out on the site, they've agreed that the 6-foot fence would be acceptable. They're dedicating the open space. I think a lot of things that we have asked, from at least this board and this board only, so. You have the floor, we'll go down and make sure everybody else is okay, so.
Additional concerns, I'm good with the project as we, it's.
Mr. Burns?
No questions about the waivers. I think we discussed it with the residents too, and the residents were okay with those, right? Yeah, the fence and all that, you guys are good with that, so. That's all for now.
Okay. I am good for now. John?
I guess this is as good as it gets, kind of thing. I don't know, it's just, in my mind, it was just a tight situation the whole bit, but they're allowed to do what they gotta do, and as long as they're doing, following the guidelines and the laws for the project, they have the right to do what they want to do. However, I was never keen on it.
Understood. Michelle?
I have a question for you. Roughly, what are you gonna be selling each unit for?
I think if, an outsale price probably would be 500, something around there. I think Bennett's Court sold somewhere in that same neighborhood.
So you're gonna sell them all?
I haven't decided whether I would sell them or I would keep them as rentals. I'm leaning towards keeping them. But if they were for sale, that's what the price would be.
Now, if you have them as rentals, that's gonna change the factors as far as parking and how many people are living in there.
So I have other projects that are similar. It actually takes less parking, if they're rental units rather than for sale. So we have more than enough parking if they end up being, rental units.
See, that brings other concerns into play here, and it is rentals versus home ownership. And that's one reason why we just had a project to put together a rental inspection program. Because I don't care what anybody says, if you own the property, you're more concerned with what it looks like. You're more concerned with your neighbors. You're more concerned with what's going on in that area. If you're renting, I'm sorry, but you don't have that concern. Stuff blows around, stuff happens over there, you know, kids run wild. So now this is introducing a whole new headache for our homeowners. When was this decision made?
It still hasn't been 100% made,
This is the first that we've heard.
Sure, again, it's townhomes is the use, and so, we meet the criterias of the code, whether, they're individually sold or I own all 8 of them. From a code perspective, we still meet the same requirements. And so again, no final decision has been made, but, I am leaning towards keeping them as rentals. I do have other, like I said, projects very similar to this. We don't see the issues you're talking about. I do maintain the units in good order. And like I said, we don't have the parking issues because we don't have the same level of parking that's needed for sale.
See what you're doing now is we're sowing the seeds of mistrust. Because this is the first we've heard of it, and these folks here, I wish you were sitting up here when you just said that, because every one of them, the look on their face, they're not happy.
Sure. And again, I don't mean to be, to instill mistrust. Again, it's a townhouse project and we're meeting those requirements.
You don't dispute that.
Yeah.
Now, there will be a homeowners association.
There would, yes.
So in addition to the owner, the homeowners association will be responsible for the snow plowing, for the trash removal, or
That's correct.
and the maintenance.
That's-
So not only do we have recourse against the property owner, we will have recourse against the homeowners association.
That's correct.
How's this homeowners association gonna be set up? Because I lived in a development over in Souderton. It was twins and townhouses. And the homeowners association, when it was first put up, the builder was the homeowners association. Is that gonna be the way this is?
It's the same, yeah, it's the same theory, right? So as a homeowners association, if I were to own all 8 of them, I'd be I'd have the control, right? Because, so if I wanted to modify something, I could, and, I'd be able to manage it as I see fit.
But if it's sold, it would have to go to a third party
That's correct.
to administer
That's correct.
well, keep in mind is that when this goes to Borough Council, Kate will review the homeowners association documents. You can always require him to do a third party rather than managing it himself, so that, and a lot of, there's a lot of companies that do it. There's several that have homeowners associations in the borough. I mean, Heather Meadows.
Yeah.
Has something, not exactly sure what all it entails, but, so there are other avenues that Borough Council can require when that time comes through Kate's office, review with their attorney and Kate to come up with documents that Borough Council's happy with. But the grinder pumps is just a different way to manage the sewer. And there's a little more maintenance involved with it, so it would have to, that would have to be part of the homeowners association documents. Well, I just, that's my preference. I'm not a big fan of the design of it, but that's what they came up with. I mean, I would rather see a single pump station.
Council can still do that.
Well, but council hasn't approved it yet. They can always do what they gotta do. We were just talking about the grinder pumps, because they're individual grinder pumps that charge the system that goes up to the street. And my preference would have been a single pump station coming up the street rather than the individual grinder pumps. But again, that's my preference. Your design is your design, but my preference would have been that single, because there's less issues. And if one person's grinder pump clogs up the system, could bog down the entire system. But, but again, Borough Council can always, change or make recommendations before the preliminary final approval.
How much would you have to get for rent for those places?
3,000-ish, 3,200.
All right. Michelle, I don't know if you finished or you're finished. Okay. Any other members of the planning commission have any comments, questions, concerns overall or in general of this project? All right. Residents, we talked about traffic. Any other comments, questions, concerns you have about the project? Please state your name and your address. I know you did it before, but for the record.
Fred Hausman, 5 East Broad Street, Hatfield. I think it was addressed before, but I didn't quite understand it. There was an issue of whether the fire trucks and the trash trucks could get in there and turn around and do what they had to do. Looking at it, I don't see how that's possible. But, wonder if that could be clarified maybe?
Well, what the developer did was it basically they would make a 3-point turn, unlike a cul-de-sac where they would be able to turn around. They would come in and they could either go straight back into the drive between the houses and come out, or if they were to pull in front of the houses, they could back up to the right and come out. So they made means so that trash trucks, big trucks, can make a 3-point turn to exit the facility. Because of the size of the property and the size of the development, it didn't warrant a cul-de-sac to be constructed. And the fire marshal's office did review it for the borough and found it acceptable for emergency vehicles to get in and out of here.
Was my understanding, maybe I misunderstood, at the onset, that the trucks had to be able to drive around the whole building? It was, okay,
That was for a different, project. That was for an apartment building that I believe was gonna be 4 stories. And this is 3-story townhouses, doesn't really have the same firefighting.
When the original proposal of a 4-story building, the very first proposal here, that requirement, because of the size of the building, they wanted to be able to drive around. The size of these structures don't warrant that.
You could attack this with ground ladders.
What if it was multiple trucks, though, multiple trucks?
Well,
You can
I mean,
back there.
I mean, there's still the opportunity, one pull in and you can, multiple ones can back around. The trucks can still back out onto the road, because at that point, if you have multiple trucks like that, you're gonna have fire police, you're gonna have fire there. So at that point, they would stop the road, they would back out, they would maneuver to wherever they needed to maneuver to. Chances are, again, if there was that much of a fire that required that many vehicles, that road would be shut down anyway. They would not allow trucks from the intersection up to one of the crossroads, and they would detour everybody. So, at that point, generally, historically, 300 feet is what hose has before they start having a loss. I don't think you have 300 feet there, so if they technically needed to park on the road and bring the hose in, there would still be enough to be able to do that. Once you start having 300 feet, then you start experience the losses in the line, and then it's the pressure is not as extent that you need, and therefore they may need to pull in. I mean, again, depending on what the circumstances.
We have a hydrant on site too.
And there's a hydrant on site as well. Go ahead.
The question to the developer, Victor Lewis, 151 Orchard Lane. Are they gonna have separate trash cans, or is it gonna be a dumpster?
These separate trash cans.
Do all have separate trash cans?
Yes.
Okay.
One hauler.
Yes.
That's important information. Yeah, it is.
I'm Jan McCarty, and I live at 13 East Broad. I have a concern. My backyard is, I know some of the houses have garages back, but my backyard is right on where the property is. If I'm right, you're putting a fence 6 feet from our property, is that correct?
Yeah, 6 feet off.
And what is going to be between the fence and my property?
Grass lawn.
Okay, my concern is, because if you were to pull in, just visualize, you're pulling in the drive, there's a fence. They don't see the grass. And is that gonna be weeds? Is that gonna, who's going to mow that?
The
I mean,
homeowner,
I'm gonna be looking at it.
the homeowners association will be required to maintain the grass. At least I'm assuming you're gonna have a homeowners.
And if they don't, what do I do?
Well, as any property maintenance, the borough follows the property maintenance guidelines. And, you would call the code enforcement officer, Bob Heil, and then he would send them a notice of violation. They would have to cut it, or he would ultimately file a citation in court if it's not maintained. But I would think that once the developer, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but once the developer hires a landscaper, that landscaper would know that the other side of the fence, 6 feet, is what he's required to cut.
Yeah, I hire green lawn fertilizing to treat the weeds and keep the grass green.
Well, it needs to be mowed.
Yeah, and then in addition, I hire a landscaper to mow it on a weekly basis.
Do the residents have anything else? Anything you would like to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Going once, going twice? All right, so. Is there a motion? well, not to be presumptuous, is there a motion to approve this plan? And if there's a motion to approve this plan, I would think that if said motion was to happen, that we are in agreement with the waiver number one to construct a fence in lieu of the landscaping. However, I would add the condition that if in the future, within the maintenance bond period, that if the fence is not working and that it's determined that some landscaping should be installed, that the developer would be willing to install some arborvitae's or something, but let's try the fence, and if the fence works, no harm, no foul, and move forward.
That's fair.
And that the second waiver is the parking setback of 20 feet. The developer is installing the 6-foot high fence. I would also think that this board would want to recommend adding a sign, no left-hand turns, between 7 and 9 in the morning and between 4 and 6 at night. And I would also think that this board would want to add a sign that says do not block intersection, so that we don't have somebody trying to make a left-hand turn in the middle of the road and then everybody's trying to come and can't get through and then blocks up the intersection. So I would, and again, to the extent they're enforceable, not enforceable, I think, again, if we can stop some of the traffic, I think that's what we would want. And that this board would recommend preliminary and final approval from the planning commission, or just, I guess it's just approval from the planning commission. Is that a motion that somebody on the planning commission wants to entertain?
I'll make a motion to grant preliminary final approval for the Hatfield Walk, 23 North Main Street development with, approval of the 2 waivers and added comments that you.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second? I'll make a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those against?
Nay.
All right, so. You still move on the council
Yep, thank you, I
at
appreciate it.
a 2-3 vote.
Thank you.
All right.
It's okay. So much of the line's gonna get sick. Take care.
See you Wednesday.
Cause I was going so fast, I was like, all motions to myself.
All right, we have old business, you have some updates?
There are no I'm sorry. There are no updates for Bennett's Court, Didden Greenhouses, or 43 Roosevelt since the November meeting.
Right, new business, we have the 2025 planning commission dates.
Included in your packet was the 2025 Planning Commission dates, all, unless a holiday falls, the 4th Monday of every month, starting at 6:00 PM.
Right. And then our next meeting is scheduled for January 27th. Pending business, but there probably will not be any business unless something gets submitted or
Correct,
or
yes.
whatever, but let's play that by ear. All right, do we need to approve the meeting dates?
Yes, council did approve it, but we did not advertise yet pending Planning Commission approval.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve the planning commission dates as presented?
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. All right, anything else for the good of the cause? All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
I have a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy New Year.